Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Minutemen. This is another Disney Channel original movie, which we just had one yesterday, but this one focuses on some boys instead of a girl who wants to figure skate and play hockey at the same time. This is a fairly ambitious story. It's a sci-fi story of three young men who decide to time travel to fix things that once went wrong. Well, and that's not Quantum Leap. It's not Back to the Future, although there are many Back to the Future references. One where they actually mention Back to the Future, and another one where the dance at the end, toward the end of the film, is literally 50s themed. If they could have gotten the rights to Johnny Be Good, they probably would have done it. All the kids are dressed in 50s outfits. They have no connection to the 50s whatsoever, but you're just like thinking Marty's going to show up here. At least two different Martys are going to show up at different points in time to join the battle. And part of me thought maybe this was actually filmed at the same high school exterior as Back to the Future, because the backlot scene seemed familiar, even though it just was strange. The actual dance was actually held. The interiors were actually filmed in Hollywood, just beyond Hollywood and Highland, just a few blocks away. But yeah, that's the whole other thing. I'm not talking about Back to the Future. This is an hour and 32 minutes from 2008, and it stars Jason Dolly as Virgil Fox, Luke Benward as Charlie Tuttle, and Nicholas Braun as Zeke Thompson. And yeah, it's yet again another Disney Channel movie that deals with bullies and being bullied and friendship above all, and maybe getting the girl that you always wanted, but because you're a nerd or considered an outcast because of one thing you did long ago, could you ever get her? So so yeah, I don't want to ruin the whole thing for you. I've already given you little teases of what's involved, but the youngest one here, the little guy, Charlie Tuttle, is Luke Benward. He is maybe 14, and he's sort of advanced a few grades. He's super smart, and he's figured out a way to travel in time. Well, back up a little bit. He tells his best friend Virgil about this. They're friends only because of a moment that happens at the very beginning of the film where one of Charlie's wacky inventions goes out of control, and Virgil does what he can to rescue him. And as a result, he gets lumped in with the nerdy kid, with Charlie, and they both get punished by the jocks on the football team, even by Virgil's best friend, who is Derek, Stephen R. McQueen. Steve McQueen? Well, somebody named their kid with the actor hopes. But yeah, so maybe he's his grandson? I have no idea. Anyway, the two of them become out. The nerdy kid's already an outcast. The Virgil becomes an outcast with him, and we jump forward 3 years. We find that his buddies, one of which was one of the football jocks, that supposedly punished him. And for me to explain the punishment and how it could even happen, well, that's a whole other thing. But they were embarrassed, let's just say, and it was Jock, Derek, Stephanie, I believe, played by Chelsea Kane. Stephanie was the female friend in the group, and then Virgil. And Virgil always had a crush on Stephanie, but she ended up with Derek. 3 years later, that's how everything sits. But because the outcast Virgil and Charlie are now buddies, super smart Charlie lets Virgil in on a secret. He has figured out the secret to time travel. They just need a place to figure it out, and they need a person who can really help build this time machine, not just run it in a simulation on a computer. He has all the facts, he just doesn't have the practical ability. So they enlist Zeke, who is kind of a loner rebel type of guy who's kind of dark and creepy, and he's just sort of away from everybody. He has no friends. He's just sort of an outsider. But he's got skills. He builds motorcycles, whatever. He's the cool one who's just sort of separated from everybody. And the three of them create a team where they travel in time, just by a few days at a time. And at first they were like, well, let's try to benefit from this. Lottery tickets, of course, but they're all underage. They can't buy lottery tickets. That never goes right. And then there's also, let's try to, they see a lot of kids being picked on because they've been picked on for various reasons. So let's try to help. Let's just do a heroic thing and see if we can change the lives of these other kids. There is still a temptation to change their own lives. There's a temptation to move things in their favor when it comes to girls. One kid, Charlie, even has a girl who is obsessed with him, and he's completely oblivious to it. And he's not really good at handling it. He's still young. So, and they let her in on the secret, and she helps them. So if she doesn't get to try time travel, the boys are the time travelers. The girl sits back with a computer to push the button and giggle at how smart they are. So yeah, I think I feel I've told you too much already. But yeah, there's lots of humor to be garnered from this. Yeah, they dress up in snowsuits, as you see here. The first thing I can find in order to, well, their friend, who apparently has access to such things in their sizes, puts them in these outfits that disguises their who they are when they go back in time and try to change things. Like is a nerd gonna get his clothing stolen and then ends up walking around naked in the school, much to his embarrassment? Well, can they keep him from being embarrassed that way? Can they stop other kids from being locked inside of a snack machine? And by the way, the whole time we have like the assistant principal, I think, played by JP Manu, Manous. I love him in everything he's in. He is hilarious. He's one of the few adults in this thing, but he is sort of the adult in the room who takes no responsibility for anything. He's just like, this is the way everything is. There's a caste system. There is certain people at certain levels, and that's how it works. He's probably the reason why many years ago these guys were publicly embarrassed. So yeah, because the adults try to do absolutely nothing. Well, yeah, they literally do nothing. He's really good at just being the comic doof in this, which is not an unusual role for a lot of adults in Disney Channel movies, but that's just the way they're made. As for being entertaining and funny, yes, it's funny. It's silly. It's not meant to be taken too seriously. If you start diving deep into the whole paradoxes and everything else when it comes to time travel, yeah, I know there's deep dives we all have done on Quantum Leap or Back to the Future or just about any time travel movie or TV show we've ever seen. This borrows from all of them, but then really just says, just go with the story. Just go with it. Don't think too much about it. Yeah, it's by the time everything builds to the climax, there is a number of emotional and what do they call it? Just there's a bunch of decisions that have to be made, specifically with our main character Virgil. If he makes a decision, as more and more people find out that they are the snowsuit guys, but they call themselves the Minutemen, as closer people start to figure out who they are and what they can do, well, they start getting sort of manipulated into changing things in their friend's favor. Do they do that? Can they do that? Should they do it? So there's some moral decisions to be made in this. So yeah, but for the most part, it's lighthearted fun. It's meant to be silly, and unfortunately, the women are treated like prizes to be won in these things, but it's a bunch of teenagers. So yeah, it's not perfect, but it's fun. And I like time travel stories, is convoluted and just how awful some of them can be. They tend to either go really silly or really dark. Back to the Future caught that perfect middle line between the two. Because there's lots of dark stuff in that, and obviously there's lots of comedy to be found in that trilogy. So, yeah. I say, yeah, check it out if you haven't seen. It's not going to change your life. It's a Disney Channel movie, so they're not exactly like high caliber auteur type films, but they're fun. So, especially if you grew up in this, and if you like the boys that are in this, hey, give them another check. See if apparently they've grown up to be rather handsome young men. Yeah. So, if you want to, if you remember this growing up and you just want to, it's only, 15 years ago? So, now that you're all grown up, you can just revisit this and just go, was this a good movie, or did I just watch it for the cute boys? That's something you need to work out on your own. Maybe a therapist can get involved. I don't know. Let's pick tomorrow's episode. All those numbers. Oh, 102. Okay. I'm getting used to the new tool here. The new number picker. Okay. We finally have something that I imagine should be shorter than a movie, which saves my life a little bit. We're going to be watching it. It's a documentary. It's one of in the Explorer series. This one is Explorer Lost in the Arctic. So, yeah. This feels like one of those documentaries from National Geographic that lasts 44 minutes flat, and we're done. I've spent an hour and a half for the last 3 days watching movies, so yeah, it's nice to get a little slightly shorter one. Explorer Lost in the Arctic is what we're watching next on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.